Hi, this is Abe with you. That ain't even tells it like a TI is. If you like my video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Like I said in my last video, I've been not feeling well for a couple of days, but I'm back. I'm back on track now. The video I'm going to talk about today is the Real Housewives of Atlanta, season 16, episode 20, part 3 of the reunion. The reunion started off where it left off. Or left off on part 2 where Shamea and Porsha were discussing the issues, and it started off with that. Ooh, it started off with that, and and Shamea was saying to Porsha, Porsha said, "You be lying, you be lying when you lied and said that I didn't come to your wedding." And she said, "You didn't come to my wedding. That was a lie. Like you don't lie, Porsha." And stuff like that. And Portia said, I did come to your wedding. And she said, plus, we already talked about that. We already discussed that behind the scenes stuff, but you brought that stuff back up. You brought that stuff back up. And then, um, and then Andy chimed in and said, well, Shamia, Portia did send you flowers for your birthday and a card. And she said, yeah, I liked it. Then they showed a little clip. Yeah, I liked it. That was nice. And the reporter said, yeah. 2 weeks after she did that, she went on this radio talk show and talked bad about me again, and stuff like that. And somebody asked her a question in the interview, asked me a question in the interview, and asked her was how was our friendship and how was our friendship and stuff. And she said she didn't know about our friendship, so that's why I did what I did. And then so Shamia said, yeah, but you also got on social media and you also got on the internet saying atrocious things about my mom. And she said, I ain't say no atrocious things about your mom. I told the truth about your mom. I said that your mom stole her friend's business, which is my mom. And then so Shamia said, it wasn't like that, it wasn't like that. And Portia said, yes, it was. You lying, Shamia, it was like that. Shamia said, no, it wasn't like that. And then Portia said, well, my mama had a daycare center, and what it was, her daycare center went into foreclosure, and so Shamia mama went up under my mama and bought the same daycare that my mama had, and her and my mama were supposed to be friends. And the only reason why we knew about it was because when me and my mama drove by there, we seen that they was taking my mama's sign down and putting up more portion mama's sign. And then so Andy told Shamia, is that true? Is that true? Shamia said, no, not all of it. It was other things going on. And my mom and Drew's mom, my mom and Portia's mom wasn't friends at the time. Portia said, you lying, they was friends. And then Portia and then Shamia said, no, they were not. And she said there was other things going on. And then Andy said, well, what are the other things? She said, I can't talk about it because if I talk about it, it will make the situation worse. And then so, uh, and then so Andy said, what do you think about the situation? And Cynthia said, well, now I kind of hate this happening. They were friends and stuff like that. But she was saying, don't bring the mamas into it, because when you bring the mamas into it, that escalates the situation. I said, Cynthia, you sure is right. Now, on that point, I agree with Cynthia. And then he said, okay, we won't talk about the mamas no more. We won't bring it into that. And then so, Andy says, so Portia, that was the real reason of your beef, because the situation between both of y'all mothers. And then Shamia said, no, that's not exactly what it was. Me and Portia had some other stuff going on way before that happened. And then so Portia said, what was the stuff we had on? And she said, you didn't come to my wedding. She said, Shamia, I did come to your wedding. You had 2 weddings. Shamia said, no, I didn't have 2 weddings. I had 1 wedding. The thing you came to was a rehearsal ceremony. And Portia said, that wasn't no rehearsal ceremony for all y'all was dressed up and all y'all costumes and stuff. And all y'all, she didn't say that, but I'm saying this. And all y'all wedding stuff and ceremony stuff. She said, I just didn't go to the one that you had overseas in Jamaica, wherever the country was, or continent was, whatever. Anyway, she said, that was my wedding. She said, And she said, Portia, you gave me this lame, and you gave me this excuse about you were sick and you couldn't fly. And Portia said, I was sick and I couldn't fly. That's why I didn't go to the other one. That's why I came to the other, but at least I came to one. And then so she said, and then so Fraser chimed in and said, Portia, when did this happen? In 2016, Portia said, yeah, around that time, yeah, close to 2016. Fraser said, let me stop this video and get some water. And Portia said to me, that's the only thing I can think of. I already told you, I already told you about the stuff about your wedding stuff. So what other problems do we have, Shamia? What other problems do you have? And then so she said, because you was talking about me behind me, had talking behind my back to all the other girls and stuff, and stuff like that, and I didn't like it. And that could be the only other thing that I didn't like about you, Shamia, this season. And then Shamia said, no, I didn't go behind my back. I didn't go behind my back. I didn't go behind your back talking about you and stuff. And then Kelly said, "Oh no, oh no, Shamia, I ain't gonna let you." She said, "Shamia, you did sick. When I came over your house to visit, you was telling me that you didn't like the way Portia was treating you and Portia was doing you, and I told you you need to tell Portia that yourself." And you kind of act like you was scared to tell Portia. And then Drew said, yeah. Drew chimed in and said, yeah, Shamir, I'm not going to let you do that either. I'm not going to, because that's not right. She said, when you had lunch with me and Angela, we did not bring up your issues with, Portia. You brought that up. You brought that up to us, and I felt like that you needed I felt like that you felt like that you needed to get something out because you had something in, and so we just kind of listened. And she said, nah, y'all went back and told Portia that I was saying that stuff when it was really y'all thinking that stuff. And I'm just saying, no, 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 it wasn't us thinking that stuff. She said, you did tell us that. And both of us told you that you need to tell Portia what you do. But you started taking up for Portia. And Drew said, yeah, you sure take it for Portia and stuff. And she said, well, I took up for my friend Portia just like you took up for Angela, Drew. And Drew said, yeah, I took up for Angela because when I heard what Portia said about Angela's husband Charles, and I said that wasn't right. She said, but why would I take it for my friend Drew? You called me a lapdog, but then when you take up for Angela, nobody called you. She said because I called you a lapdog because you walked out on me, you walked out on us, and you was taking up for Portia when Portia was in her wrong. And I said that's right, Drew and Angela tag team Shamia Tear and stuff like that. I think that because they found out when they got the seating choice that Drew was sitting on the end, and I think all of them had planned, including Portia, all of them had planned. We're gonna get that since Britt out here. We're gonna get that Drew. We're gonna make Drew the scoop, the scapegoat. We're gonna make Drew have all at once. And the tables turned on them real quick because could none of them challenge Drew. Baby Drew was whacking everybody left and right except for Angela. But anyway, back to the point. And so and so after that, and so after that, she said, "Well," she said, "Well, since Drew kept calling me a lapdog, I just I just decided to take on the label." And then so Kelly said, you're not a lapdog." And then so Drew said, "Yeah, you need to go over there and sit in that lap and take that photos." And Portia said, "Sit in my lap." She said, "Oh no, because mine." And then Angela said, "I wish you stop using that word lapdog. I'm tired of using that word lapdog." And so she said, "Okay." And then he said, Portia, do you think that there's any way that y'all can reconcile and try to move on with this relationship, this friendship? What Portia said, Andy, with all the stuff that I've been going through this season, my divorce and my cousin passing away and all stuff, I just don't have the space and the bandwidth for this relationship right now. And then Shamia chimed in and she said, see, Andy, that's the difference between me and Portia. I'm willing to work on this relationship and Portia is not. I said, Shamia, The writing been on the wall ever since the season started. Porsha do not want to be your friend. Porsha is just tolerating you because everybody like you and they like the lifestyle that you present for the Real Housewives because that's what she's supposed to be presenting. Like I said when I did part one, if Bliss could kill Shamea would be on the floor, and then on part two and part three, if Bliss could kill Porsha would be on the floor because the way they was looking at each other, you could tell there was not no real friendship. And then after that, he said, he said, can you accept that, Shamea? Shamea said, yeah. He said, Shamea, what do you regret? She said, what I regret is going to these ladies and these ladies telling a portion of what I said. That's the only thing I regret and stuff. And so Andy said, going forward, what you gonna do, Shamin? She said, going forward, I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut and not talk about stuff. And then so Drew chimed in and said, yeah, that's what you should do. That's what you should do. And then so he said, okay, we're going to a commercial break. So they went to a commercial break. And then when they came back, he said, let's move on. We finna go to Drew. Say, Drew, you done been so much this season, and you was talking about this season, so they showed Drew's packing and stuff. He said, all the stuff that you went through, you said, Drew, a fan commented and said, with all the stuff you going through with your divorce and stuff like that, how is it that you staying upstairs and we're staying upstairs and everything is going on? Why come one of y'all can't move out? And then so Drew said, well, it's not me. It's not that I really want to stand. It's the judge. The judge court ordered for Raptors to be downstairs and baby and for me to be upstairs. So I had to go by the judge rule. And she said, I don't know what's going on with these courts in Georgia and these laws. And then Portia chimed in and said, yeah, that's what happened to me. And my ex, I had to be upstairs and he had to be downstairs. So Drew is right about this. We don't know what's going on in these courts in Atlanta, Georgia, but that's the way it is. Even though you are separated and getting divorced, you got to live in the same house. And then so Andy said, okay. He said, Drew, he said, Drew, a fan wanted to know why did you say that about, why did you say that? He said, a fan wants to know that, do you think that, that you was, that it was like because you said that you didn't like that Portia was filming with Ralph. He said didn't you do the same thing with Dennis? And she said no, that's not really the same. It's not really the same and stuff like that. She said because I did try to call Portia and get her text and tell her that I want to talk to her about something. And I said Dennis was supposed to I said, Dennis was supposed to tell Portia. At that time, the guys had already been out sick. And he said, Dennis, did you tell Portia? He said, yeah, I mentioned something to Portia and stuff. But I feel that since I had already talked to Ralph, Drew should be the one to talk to Portia. And then Portia said, you didn't tell me that. You didn't tell me that. You just told me you and Drew was working together. You didn't say nothing about filming. And then so Drew said, well, that's why I tried to call you to tell you that me and Dennis were gonna be working together, mate. But you didn't say nothing about filming. He said you mentioned it. He said I didn't mention nothing about the new girls. I asked you about the new girls portion, but I didn't mention nothing to it. And that's how you told me, but you kept on ignoring me and then I stuck and then so you could tell that Dennis was lying. And then Andy said, "Are you okay with it now, Portia?" Portia said, "Yeah, I'm okay with it now." And stuff. And he said, "Oh, okay." He said, "Drew, what about the situation with Shamea? You said Shamea didn't go back and tell Portia the right story. And Portia, how did you feel about it?" Portia said, "I was pissed at first. I didn't like it, but then after I went back and saw the thing, I really said it wasn't nothing bad about it. But at the time, I didn't know about it because Shamea didn't bring it back to me right." And so and then so Andy said, Drew, you agree with that? You forgive Portia? She said, yeah, I do. I agree with that. I forgive Portia and stuff like that. And then so and then so uh, Andy said, Portia, do you really believe those texts? Do you really believe that that Drew was working with Dennis to get beats and music and hits? And she said, Well, that's what it said in the text. What said that Jenny said, no, it didn't say in the text. I said I didn't want to mess over with you. I said I don't want to mess over with you, but I used the word F over it. And so, and she said, that's not what it said. You said a little bit worse than it said. He said, I don't know what it said. It's been so old. He said, but I know what I said. I said, this is about money. This is about business. And he said, you know, I told you that Porsche. Porsche kind of looked down. Well, you know, we're family. Best all over it and stuff like that. And then so, now, Drew said, "Nah, you can't do that. We gotta have a certain time to be in the studio." So I wasn't gonna, so I wasn't gonna be doing that. She said, "You look at the, you say," she said, "No, I'm gonna do it." Say, "Look at me and all that." And then Portia said, uh, Portia said, Portia said, I got that man named Jax or whatever his name. He don't look that good either." And so, she said, "Oh," she said, "Okay." And she said, okay. You said, I'm just saying that Dennis is my type, this is my type. And Drew, are you dating somebody now? She said, no, I told you I ain't dating nobody now because me and Ralph still going through his divorce, still going through his divorce, and stuff like that. And he said, well, if you decide to date somebody, will you bring him on the show? She said, yeah, I sure would bring him on the show. Y'all be the first to know. And then Portia gonna sit on her bed. He said, I'll bring a man on the show, said, a man or a woman. And then Drew said, well, I heard you date, I heard you date women too. I heard you. And she said, like, yeah. She said, oh, yeah, stuff went on. She said, yeah, he sure would. Dennis would be right here, and whatever person would be over here. And then they kind of went back on that, and then Aaron said, "Come on, let's move on." He said, "Charles," he said, "Charles, they say you the enforcer." He said, "But right now, you're here, and we're glad you're here." And he said, "Yeah, sometime I could be in the force, and sometime I'll be here to support my wife. So right now, I'm here to support my wife." So he said, "Charles, well, what do you think about Angela being on the show?" He said, I didn't mind Angela being on the show, but sometimes she came on crying, but sometimes I told her, you signed up for the show, so what do you don't have to be a little tougher, take it. And so stuff like that. And then so, he said, well, Drew said that some woman met her at the school and said she knows you, and y'all was doing exercise and physical training. Is that right? No, that's not right. Well, yeah, she was just about to the neighborhood. She came visit, and Portia said, visiting from the neighborhood. You can't that neighborhood. You have to be asked in. Nobody believed him, and they talking about yeah. That ain't right. That ain't right. And Drew said, well, I told you she came up to him, and then he came back and said, with all the stuff that's going on and stuff like that, I went back and looked at old texts that me and Drew had when we was out, and I was saying, how did we get to this? Drew said, don't you come on here lying. Don't you come on in here lying. And you always do it. You did that last year trying to make you sister good guy. And baby, if looks could kill, baby, the way Drew clowned him, baby, he was mad because he was already talking about Drew is one way on TV and another way. And they were saying, yeah, what about that? What about this video right here? And she said, yeah, we're trying to co-parent him for, uh, Labor Day and stuff with our kids, and I thought it was gonna be something instant. Next thing I know, he got on the internet talking about I said behind the scenes that I loved him, all that stuff. That never happened. I just ate some of the food, and then Angela said, "Oh yeah, you got a man that cook for you. That's good. Just eat that for you." All I ate was a ribeye. And then after that, he said, okay, season 16 is a wrap. Let's go. And before that, Charles was asking our ladies, where are y'all husbands at? And he told Portia and what you call it, he didn't know them. And then after that, he said, anything else y'all want to ask the men? And then Kelly said she wanted to ask well, why, what did her husband say to him? And Ralph said, he didn't say too much to me. He just said a little bit about your divorce. That was it. And then so after that, the person said, you didn't come to my birthday in Grenada. You can come right now, Andy. So she all got them fans. And they started flapping their fans. She said, Andy, you gotta put your little hip in there. Had the little dance and it went out. Episode 20 was good. To me, some people say they should have not kept one. To me, I think all three episodes was good. I give season 16. I give season 16. I give season 16 a solid B because even after the Kenya Moore stuff, I mean maybe episode maybe 6 or 7 were a little bit kind of off, but all together it was a good season, and I hope season 17 is a little bit better. Uh, uh, and like people say, this is kind of the new era of housewives, at least Atlanta. So I'm glad that was. That's all I have for this video. This is A. Wesley. That ain't even tells it like a TI is. I am out.